So my mom thinks, my mom thinks that all of the restriction I had as a child just made me want to be, as free as possible as an adult.
Well, that's a good theory. So maybe that was the impetus. What are some of the records that you did? Because I'm wondering how many different records are there? There's I mean, how high you can go up, how fast you could do one jump to another. I don't know. What are some of these records?
Throughout my skydiving career are large formation records. So it's when you get a group of people together in multiple aircraft, depending on how big the record is, and everybody exits the aircraft and joins together in free fall and holds hands and then breaks off.
What's your favorite part about everything that you do?
I think it's the
All right, Amy Chmelecki. We're going to talk about some fun. She's, I have two daughters, so she's like a hero to me. I mean, we're going to get into a nice story about 20,000 dives in the sky.
Yeah.
Wow. And among many other things. But we have to go back. Let's go back to see. She's wearing the Red Bull hat. We're going to get into Red Bull. We're getting a lot of stuff. Let's go back, though, to the origin. I mean, when was the first notion? Where'd you grow up? I want to know what mom and dad did for a living real quick. I want to know these things because I'm a nosy bastard, but I also want to know the algorithm, what built you. How does this happen?
Okay, I have a few theories. My childhood was fairly boring. My father is in the restaurant supply business, so he's a salesman. He's gone back and forth between owning his own business and working for a company. And my mom is a nurse. I grew up outside of New York City in the suburbs in a really nice area. My family is all very blue collar. But I was really sick as a child. I had a lot of problems with my lungs, and when I was born, my hips weren't fully formed, so they put me in a full body cast for the first 6 months. So my mom thinks, my mom thinks that like all of the restriction I had as a child just made me want to be, as free as possible as an adult.
Well, that's a good theory. So maybe that was the impetus. This is the movie, ladies and gentlemen, where we start to tell the story. How old were you when you were in that cast? This is where our movie starts.
I mean, baby, I was newborn. My mom luckily realized my legs were a little bit off, or
Uh-huh.
else they wouldn't have caught it. And I really wouldn't have been able to grow up to be an athlete because I would have one leg substantially shorter than the other. So even though it was brutal to put me in the cast, it was a good thing.
Okay. This is where we show that that's the ghost of the story. Forgive me, I'm going in this direction. Just, bear with me. And then we would cut to high school, right? So then what was that like? Did you already have the bug or what was happening with you? Did it start before that? What's that like?
So, okay, everyone in my family is some sort of addict. I
Hmm.
kind of think I got lucky. I got adrenaline, like I drew that card, so I feel pretty lucky about that. So I wasn't great in school. I really, really struggled. I was just didn't understand. I was behind. And I felt really dumb. I just thought I was dumb. I was convinced. You couldn't have convinced me otherwise until I started playing sports. And then I realized that as long as life was going really fast, if I was running and if things were moving fast, I could excel. I was better than anyone else. And that's when I realized that maybe there were things, that I was good at, and maybe being smart looked different to different people. So I'm real happy that I get to live a life of a professional athlete.
So you're hyper. You're kind of like that's how I was in high school. I was like hyper. I was impulsive. I wasn't the best student until after high school. Then I decided to learn. But then when does this notion? When's the inciting incident where you're like, I'd like to, jump out of a plane, 20,000 feet or whatever, and what's that like? I mean, when does that start?
Yeah, when I reflect, it really feels like skydiving just pulled me in. It was like it had its eye on me, and it just like figured out a way. Once it had me, there was no way. Like I heard about two women when I was 14 years old. I heard about two women that had gone skydiving. I don't know who these women are. I don't really even remember who was talking about it, but I just thought, huh? Like that sounds really fun. Like that sounds really like you could just keep flipping and flipping and flipping, and you would have this all this time. Obviously, the ground would eventually stop you, but it's not like doing a flip on the ground where you can just do a flip. You could just keep doing them. And I was so drawn to that concept that I tried to go when I was young. You have to be 18 though in the United States. So when I turned 18, I went skydiving for the first time.
Wow. So that was all right. So you knew at a young age, at 14, you're like, this is when it starts. And then you turned 18. It was like near your 18th birthday. And like, yeah, Amy wants to do this. And your parents are like, "Ugh, okay,
Yeah.
fine. Or okay, they were like that. Okay, yeah.
Well,
So
they found out after the first jump. So
you didn't tell them.
that no, I was already out of the house and I just didn't want them to worry, and I'm probably honestly, I didn't want to deal with their stress. So I told them after and yeah.
All right. So does your journey like totally to skyrocket or is it a gradual climb? What do you do after you do that initial jump?
So the first jump, the moment I walked onto the skydiving facility, I realized that I was gonna stay there. Like I just knew it was my home. The people there, the energy. It was before even I did my first skydive. It was just like, wow, these are my people for real. And I did my first jump and I didn't understand that you could do skydiving. I don't think most people do. I just thought, it's for you're either in the military or like you go once, right? That's what I thought. And, obviously when I saw that there was this whole world, this whole community of people and all these different things you could do, I never looked back. I signed up right away to get my license. And then I didn't have money. I was pretty broke, but it's expensive, a lot more now than then, but I just did whatever it took. I worked 3 jobs throughout college to try and pay for this very expensive hobby that I suddenly was in love with.
When's this start to become a vocation? When's this start to become like your main source of income and your when you start to really make strides? You broke a lot of records and all that. I mean, but before that, when does this really start to materialize into your career?
So I figured I would have a normal career. Okay. I'm doing air quotes for anyone that isn't watching the video, but like I thought, okay, I'm going to go take a year off after college. And I moved to Arizona from New York and I moved to a large skydiving facility and called Skydive Arizona. And I figured I'm just going to take a year off and then I'll go get a real job. And that one year I was working as a bartender at the Drop Zone bar. So I would just kind of work at night and use whatever tips I made that night to skydive the next day. And it was really great. And that one year, that was 25 years ago. I'm still here.
Wow.
Yeah, I
And
loved it from the beginning.
20,000 jumps. Now, we just had somebody on the show a couple weeks ago. He had the world record for a while. He did 600 jumps, and then he went back and forth. First, he did 400. Somebody beat his record. Then he did 600. Then somebody beat his record. I think they did 1,000. You probably know who I'm talking about. Um, uh, and but did you get like was it the adrenaline like I just keep going. Did you ever think about like was that a record that one of the records because you broke a lot of records? I read you had like 20 records bro. Take us through some of those. Take us through the origin of that. Like the first milestone, the second milestone. Take us through the pantheons of your those milestones that are pretty. That's a rarefied air. No pun intended.
So even from the beginning, when I was living at Skydive Arizona as a 21-year-old fresh out of college, I just thought, okay, eventually I'll go do something else. But I really loved it, and every year I thought, okay, I'll do it next year, like next year, just a little bit longer. And I was tending bar, and I didn't really have a long-term plan at all. I was so aimless. In fact, that was my nickname for a little while. I just was kind of waking up each day and making it up as I went along. But after a couple years of living and working at Skydive Arizona as a bartender, people started offering me sponsorships. They would trade, like letting me jump at their facility in order to represent their facility, or letting me jump their equipment to represent their company. And so that started to happen pretty early on. And then people started asking me to coach them, to teach them how to do it. So it really kind of slowly turned into a income generating thing over time. And those first maybe 4 years that I lived here, I was mostly bartending. And then for another 4 years, I was bartending and also making a living off of skydiving and not sleeping at all. I was about 26, so I could do that. But after a while, my body started just shutting down and I quit bartending and started making my money only out of skydiving. And then every year it really seems to get better. I feel proud at 47 years old that I still
Younger.
feel like I'm evolving and having more and more to offer to the sport as I go. So yeah, it's changed and morphed over the years, and it evolved in a way where I've done different things, different records, different competitions.
I don't know what, I think it was 60 or 600. I know it was the person that I was talking to before. They went straight, did you decide to go after one of those records where you just go straight and see as many jumps as you can, like in a row? Or was it, what other
Man,
records?
there's a guy. I don't know if you're talking about the guy that did the most amount of skydives in one day.
Yeah.
But that to me is one of the most impressive and crazy records. I've looked into breaking that,
That's
and it's always in
incredible.
the back of my head that maybe I should try and plan that. But it's like ultra marathon. It's like one of those people that runs, 600, 300 miles. You just like, who does that, right? When I really looked at it, you're basically running nonstop for 24 hours. And it's crazy. You have to be super fit, super driven. You got to have a lot of good sponsors. Yeah, that record's insane.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember on the name of the person it was,
Yeah,
but you
Jay, I'm brain
you
locking
know
now.
who it is.
Yeah,
Is it Reed Stark? No, no.
Jay
Uh,
Star.
no, no, it's worth it. Yeah, it'll in the post game we'll go over it. But the thing is that there's only, like, what are some of the records that you did? Because I'm wondering how many different records are there. There's I mean, how high you can go up, how fast you could do one jump to another. I don't know. What are some of these records?
Yeah, as skydivers, we kind of sit around in our little social circles after the jumping day and we
What else
just
can you?
dream up like, oh, we could do this jump, try this, or we get on little kicks and then these new kind of ideas pop up and might become official things for a while. So the type of records that I've been most drawn to throughout my skydiving career are large formation records. So it's when you get a group of people together in multiple aircraft, depending on how big the record is, and everybody exits the aircraft and joins together in free fall and holds hands and then breaks off. And you have to let the judges know exactly what the formation is going to be and where each person is going to be holding hands with the other. And you have to execute it exactly how you say you're going to execute it for it actually to be a record. And what I really like about those records is that they're physical markers of the sport's evolution. So we're going for 100-way record in November of sit flying. It's when you're sitting up. It looks like everybody's sitting around in a circle, but you're in free fall. The last record was set in 2019, was an 84-way, and now we're going for 100-way. And once we get that 100-way, that's the new mark. That's the new evolution of where the sport's at. And I really think that's neat.
Wow, yeah, that I've seen that, and that's fascinating. So yeah, 100 people, that's a staggering amount. I know the person that we were talking about, they worked on Iron Man 2 or whatever, where they jumped out of that plane. And to me, it's so intense when you have so many people out there and you have to, like, you're coordinating, it's not like you're doing something on your own, you have, how long do you have to prepare for something like that, right? You have to strategize for that quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, it's usually at least 2 years. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. And we start with selecting a team of coaches that are going to help us select the bigger team and train the people around the world. So for this record coming up in November, we have coaches in Australia and all throughout Europe and through South America. And they are helping us get people trained up, and communicating to us who's ready and who we should bring onto the 100-way team. And then we all gather together in a specific location. Usually we do it at Skydiving Arizona because I live here and the weather's amazing and the airplanes are great. It's just the perfect place for something like this. And then it's about a week long and we do several jumps a day. We start off training pieces of the big picture. Then we bring those pictures together and we do it slowly, so we can kind of make it really clean. It's like whenever you're learning something new as an individual, you want to try and do it slow before you can do it fast. And that's our theory with the big team. But it is absolutely a team effort.
What's your favorite part about everything that you do?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think I think it's the freedom I have. I still to this day consider sometimes maybe, I'm 47, maybe if I got a job at like a police station, I can get a pension in 20 years. And it's always in the back of my head, like, oh, but that freedom is what I feel so privileged and lucky to have that freedom. It's my favorite part.
Yeah, and you get to work in nice, it's glamorous too. You get to work, you worked on some big movies. The rock movie with was it Earthquake or what was it? Was it
Yeah, San Andreas.
San Andreas, yeah, that's right. I should know that. I'm from California. And then there was so I mean, what was that? First of all, what's that like? When you work on a set, you know, everything going on with the Rust movie and how the AD and stunt people now everything is heightened. I mean, a big production like that is different, but I mean, aren't you working with the best of the best, when it comes to, big budget, films like that?
Yeah, Hollywood stuff is some of the most amazing jobs. On the various teams that I'm on, if anyone gets that Hollywood call, everything else is up. When my husband and I decided to get married, I was like, look, it could be our wedding, like a week away from our wedding. If I get that Hollywood call, I was like, honey, I'm not, I got to, they're really good jobs for a skydiver. But the thing you have to be careful about with those jobs, yes, the crews are professional. It's the people at the top of the game. But what you have to be careful of is you have people that don't know anything about skydiving asking you to do things. So, and you could easily get blinded by the job or like you really want to do well, and it can quickly get unsafe. So you have to be honest and keep everybody in check and just make sure that you're executing things safely. And generally that's not a problem because the level of professionalism is there. It is just something I'm always really careful of if I am lucky enough to get a Hollywood job.
I love that. I would love to hear those conversations between like the producer and like, the professional, skydiver director. It's like, because they have, it's like, well, it says in the script that you could do that, right? And it's like, well, no, we can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. And then you have these two different worlds that are talking to each other. I would love to see more of that. I've been on set many times, but I would love to be like on a set to see the dynamics of somebody with such a skill set like yours to where not even the stunt coordinator is going to have an understanding because you're so specialized, and that probably it'd be funny. It'd be like something you'd see in Hooper to where like that, remember that movie, like, about a stunt guy, Burt Reynolds, seeing like, the stunt guy and then the specialty person and is talking to a director or a producer, which would be like, for the most part, they're probably like, yes, okay, we can't do that. What else can we do? But have you ever in the movies that you have done, have you ever been like, oh, can't you do that? I mean, why can't you? Is it ever like that?
Not on the SAG jobs. On the SAG jobs, it's actually oftentimes the other way around. So as a professional skydiver of 30 years now, for me, what is cool in skydiving is a lot different to someone that doesn't have any skydiving experience. And oftentimes the somewhat easier stuff might be what is going to really look cool, because if you get too fancy, people don't understand what you're doing. It's not relatable at all. So I've always felt very respected. And I don't understand honestly how all of it works, but there seems to always be a stunt coordinator representing us that does understand and know everything about skydiving. And they're the contact to the major or the next level of stunt director for the movie or the commercial. And it usually feels, I've never ever wanted to walk away from something. I've always felt comfortable. I have been nervous at times, but it's more, you just want to do a good job, you know?
Right, right. Yeah. I don't know. I romanticize the conversation of the differences between the different worlds of people that are unconscious competence and conscious, competence say, look, now this is how it works. But in realistically, you're probably dealing with studio reps that are there, insurance companies, you get the people that are the head of liability for the studio, the coordinator, all this, the executive producers, everybody's probably, got their dotting their I's and crossing their T's on this thing. So where are you at right now in your career? What's going on? Like, what are some topical things that you're doing?
Yeah, so right now I have a few different things I do. I am still working for Red Bull, hence the Rebel hat,
Yeah.
and I'm an athlete for them. I've been with them for about 13 years now. I just signed a new contract, which I'm really happy about. And I teach the military operations, generally special forces units, so basic free fall stuff, which is really an amazing job because they're such incredible students. It's like entering data into a computer and pressing execute. It's so fulfilling. Makes me feel like a good coach, but really they're just good students, honestly. And then I have my own kind of side hustle business where I organize these large world record events. I'm planning two. One is in March. It's a night world record head down. That's going to be 46 people. It's great. Everyone is going to have fireworks on their feet. So it kind of ups the level of you got to be careful and on top of your stuff. And plus it's at night. So there's, it's dark. And then I have the head up record, the 100 way in November that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, those are my main things and a bunch of little other things.
Uh, Long term, future, 5, 10, 15 years. What do you have? Do you have plan out that far ahead? What do you have planned?
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night, honestly.
Yeah,
I think like
me
if I
too.
could go, yeah, man, if I could go back and like circle back to my younger self, I would really encourage her to just nurture something else outside of skydiving, just like another plan. And when I say that, honestly, I know it would be pointless. I could go back and literally look at me in the face and I still wouldn't have listened, as a 20-year-old. But I have some ideas and plans, and it basically involves taking the skill set that I have as a skydiver and as a marketer and self-promotion and all the things that I've done, all the business aspects of what I've done, not just jumping out of airplanes, and applying that to a different entrepreneurial situation. And I still hope to skydive, but as I age, I have to refine and kind of morph my style into not just doing as many jumps as I can and super challenging, crazy stuff that's hard on my body to more quality and different creative ideas. So I still feel like part of the evolution and creating new things, which is really important to my self-fulfillment. But it looks a little bit different as I age.
18 years old and so many dives. What's one of the weirdest things you've ever seen in your time out there?
Let's see. I don't, nothing really. Well,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would
Well, I'll
scare.
give you an example. When you're on the ground and you're like taking the gear off and you got other divers next to you, and it's like, well, there's this one time. That's that I want to know that story.
Yeah, skydivers are weird. I remember they're funny, just weird people. But okay, the weirdest thing is this is the greatest stunt. I might be biased, but in my opinion, the stunt that my teammate Luke Akins did, I was lucky I got to be there when he did it in person. I think it's the greatest stunt of all time. It was so crazy. He jumped out of a plane without a parachute at 25,000 feet and he landed in a giant net. Does that ring a bell? It was called Heaven Sent.
No. I don't know about
It
that.
was weird. It
He landed in a giant net.
he wasn't this was incredible. It was it's called Heaven Sent. You can look it up on YouTube, give it a Google. And he basically, someone had asked him, you think you could do this? And he immediately said, no, there's no way you can't do that. And then he couldn't sleep that night. He couldn't sleep the next night. He was like, I know nothing is impossible. He was like, I know. And it just bothered him so much that he just had to figure it out. And he figured it out. There's a lot of details I could get into about what he did, but yeah, he jumped out of a plane, 25,000 feet, and navigated his way into a net that caught him and softened his fall enough that just caught him, and boom, it was like history. It was really insane.
Wait a second here. Okay, so he pulled a chute on the way down.
No parachute. He was
Okay,
not
wait a second now.
parachute.
Wait a second.
Oh.
What kind of net is this? What kind of net? That's
Yeah.
insane.
He figured it out. He used the things that air traffic controllers, the lighting system that they use to hone in on the aircraft carrier, not air traffic controllers, but people landing jets on aircraft carriers. So he got that system and he figured out a way to get it around this net. It was only 150 feet by 150 feet. So really from 25,000 feet, that looks like a postage stamp. It's just like crazy. And what is so extra weird and funny about this guy, he's one of the board members on the United States Parachute Association, which you are not allowed to jump out of an airplane without like using a parachute and putting one on. Like if you have an intention of landing with a parachute on, you have to have that parachute on when you leave the airplane.
Right.
But because what he did was technically not a skydive, it was a high jump. It was a different sport, and it's not even considered a skydive to the United States Parachute Association. And it's just
how high up was he?
25,000 feet. You have to pre-breathe oxygen for 1 hour to saturate your body with oxygen before you go up that high.
All right. My questions all surround around the net. I need to know what type of material, what type of mechanics went into the net, because that's what we're talking about here. There's the net. That's the thing that saved his life.
The net was insane. I won't be able to describe the material and do it justice, but so I know they did test for about a year. And what he did was he jumped, and then he got a waiver to open a parachute lower. So he would kind of get over the net and make sure, if he had gone a handful of seconds later, he would be in the net. And he just did that hundreds of times. And he knew he was there. He totally had it dialed in. And so he was opening parachute with base equipment. That equipment is designed to open lower. It's for jumping off of fixed objects. Yeah. So he was able to open that equipment lower, and he figured out a way to train for it. And then he did high jumps. So he did jumps from a crane that was really high, which was basically higher than where he was opening his base canopy, into the net. So he was able to break it down and really meticulously train all these different aspects of it. I almost didn't go. I called my teammates and I said, hey, is Luke gonna die? Because I don't want to see him die. Like, I don't want to go and see my friend die. Like, that is nothing I ever want to see. And they were like, no, like, he figured it out. Like, he's good. He's good. And yeah,
that's a doozy. That's one of the, I can't imagine. That's a topper. That would be one that's for the books on technically it's not a skydive. It is a skydive. That's 25,000
Yeah, it's
feet,
not.
man.
It's not. It was a high jump. When it makes sense when you think about it, right? Like if you jump out of a helicopter 20 feet above the ocean, and then people take that higher and higher all the time. He just really figured out how to do it from 25,000 feet.
That's insane. Well,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. You've seen and done it all. And you're right there at the epicenter, right there in Arizona. So fascinating. Tell everybody how they could find out more about you.
So my name is Amy Chmelecki, and you can look that up. I think I'm the only one in the world. So if you give that a Google, you'll be able to find my Instagram and my Facebook page. And yeah, those are the best ways.
Chmelecki, Chmelecki.
Yeah.
Amy
Yeah.
Chmelecki, a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. It's great talking with you.
Thanks for joining us. Gear up for your next adventure and head over to Bolotor.com to check out the amazing Bolo Pack and their other innovative outdoor gear. Catch you next time.